All right, welcome to another episode of the Scripting Them podcast. I am Fernando, as usual, and today I want to cover balancing side projects with burnouts, essentially. Many developers usually have side projects. Heck, this is a side project for me. But balancing that with your own, with your 9 to 5, essentially, with your actual job, it can be complicated. It can actually lead to burnout and to you not longer enjoying the side project, which you started it for a reason. So trying to avoid that burnout is crucial, right? So let's talk about how we can try to balance our life, balance the side project and the obligations for it with the rest of our lives, essentially the personal side, the work side, and everything else, right? The first thing is trying to understand why we're doing what we're doing. Why are we working on this side project? There are many appeals, many different reasons why we might want to work or extra hard, essentially, to have this side project. It might be because of professional reasons. It might be because whatever we're doing is improving our understanding or knowledge or practice or experience with technology, with something that we use on a daily basis for a job, for our main job, for the 9 to 5, essentially the activity that pays the rent and that puts food on the table, essentially. So that's one reason, right? It can just be something as simple or as complex, if you will, as it being a creative outlet, essentially. For me, for example, working on this podcast is more about being creative, being able to create something that is not about code, that is not something that a task in Shira is asking me to. It's more about me having the freedom of expressing myself, and that is something that over the years I've recognized I need for me to stay sane, essentially, and to avoid burnout. Right, I do this so that I don't burn out with my job, with always thinking about code, always thinking about the technical aspects of applications or architecture of whatever I do on a day-to-day basis. Who knows what I do? But this is just me rambling. This is just me expressing myself and hopefully helping someone else in the process. Or it can be just something about personal fulfillment. You always, let's say you've always wanted to write a book, for example. Then one of your side projects could be focusing on writing your own book, your first book. I've gone through that process 8 times already. And it's definitely something that takes a lot of time, a lot of effort, and a lot of energy. So if you're doing it because you feel like you need to, because it will make you more comfortable in your own skin with your career, with whatever or whatever the topic is, then by all means, it's super valid. It's absolutely something that you should be working on, right? I mean, there are many reasons, essentially, just to summarize this section, there are many reasons why working on a side project is absolutely valid. Side projects, even for developers, don't have to be about code. They can be about anything, either technical or not technical, but it's just something that takes away time from our personal lives and from essentially the whatever free time we have. And if we don't balance it, and here's where the ugly part of this comes, we might burn out because we have the responsibility of our main job, of a 9 to 5, and you do have a personal life, however big or short it might be. It might just be you. It might be you and an extended family. It might be you and a group of friends. It might take many shapes, but you do have a life, and you do have interests that are outside of this side project and your day-to-day job. So if the side project ends up eating all of that time, then without noticing, you're gonna burn out. How do you know when you're getting there? How do you know when you're reaching a point of no return essentially, where in the end you'll end up burnout if you don't stop. How do you, and this is very personal. I mean, there is no absolute list of checklists that you have to follow and that you have to check to make sure that you're not being burned out. But there are some indications. I mean, if we think about it from the side project point of view, remember, you started that side project for a reason, right? That reason gave you motivation to do it every day, to eat away from that free time that you had to do something that is not necessarily relaxing in some aspects. If you start losing motivation, if you start thinking about, all right, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm tired. I would rather look at the ceiling instead of working on this or instead of doing this. That is a clear sign that you might be looking at an impending burnout. If you're irritating, if you're even or stressed out, irritated, or just pissed off of during the entire day, either because you're constantly thinking about trying to get that extra work that for the side project and you're not able to, or if you're just pissed off because you have to do that, instead you will be rather spending time with your kids or just playing video games or just hanging out with your friends or whatever, then that might also be a sign that you might be getting burned out. The point of doing this, remember, there are many reasons why you started, but all of them should be fulfilling. Whether it's at a professional level or a personal level or creative side, it should always give you some value. You should feel some sort of realization after doing your side project, after working and improving your side project. If you don't feel that way, then chances are you might be starting to look at some signs of burnout. It's really difficult to in the heat of the moment to realize that. So you have to step away and take a step back and look at how you feel about your side project objectively, which is not something easy. But just kind of look for signs, look for lack of motivation, for irritation, for frustration in regards to the side project. If you start feeling that way, then it might be that it's just too much right now. You're just trying to juggle too many balls essentially, and the side project is being one of them. Now, in my case, I felt that way many times. I started and dropped many side projects in the past. Some of them were actual products, coding side projects that I've had. I've developed libraries, I've developed frameworks that never made it, never saw the light of day. Some of them actually were published on GitHub without any repercussions. I've started side projects that were dropped 3 weeks afterwards. So it's really I think that we've all been there at some point. The thing is, thinking about, especially when we get started, because we have all that motivation for doing it, we're willing to sacrifice a lot. We're willing to sacrifice sleep. In my case, I slept 4 hours a day many years, and I was able to write a lot. That's how I wrote my books. That's how I wrote over 400 articles on Medium. They were side projects for me. They were side projects that I was really enjoying, but I eventually got to a point where I decided I'd rather sleep than sacrificing and feeling like a zombie the entire day just because I got another article out. I'm still writing. I'm just better at balancing that, with the rest of my personal life. I'm still doing things. I'm doing this right now. It's Saturday morning and I'm recording an episode for the podcast. But because I've managed to come to a better balance, so it's definitely not easy. It's not something that it's trivially resolved as we tend to believe when we get started. But if we set the right expectations, and I want to talk about that, if we do it properly, if we plan for it, then it's something that we can keep doing for an extended period of time. But if we don't think about this beforehand, we just jump into it out of passion, out of lack of understanding, then burnout is going to happen, and it's going to happen really quick. So a few tips on how to properly plan for your side project to avoid burnout would be, the first one is like setting realistic goals, right? If you're working on a project, let's say if you're trying to develop your own application, for instance, then setting up few hours a day, maybe 1 hour a day, it might be realistic for you. Saying that you will work 4 hours every day on top of your 8 to 9 hours of your daily job, that might be too much. That might be too much, especially if you have a active social life, or especially if you have family. Then you have to think about, when you set these expectations, what are you sacrificing essentially? Are you sacrificing sleep? Are you sacrificing time with your friends? Are you sacrificing time with your family? Are you sacrificing video game time? I mean, this is not about prioritizing your free time. Your free time is absolutely important, and there is a reason why we have it. I mean, we need it. We need to disconnect. That is key to a healthy work-life balance, and the side project aspect of this is part of our work-life balance. It's not just companies eating out and screwing out our balance in terms of work and personal life. We can absolutely screw that up without help from outside. So when you're thinking about what you want to do as a side project, try to set realistic goals. Try to think about, if you're thinking about timeline for your project, don't think about something that will require you to spend 8 hours a day working on this, or 4 hours a day, if you know you don't have that time. The point here is that when you're setting your goals, you're going to think about a measurement of effort. How much effort you'll need to spend on this, or you need to put on this on a daily basis. That effort will have to come from somewhere else. This is not like when you're estimating a task in your daily job, you already have that time allotted to split up in multiple tasks. So there it's really simple, because you say, out of my 8 hours a day, I'll just spend 3 hours or 4 hours a day working on this. That's fine. I have that time already there for that. When you're thinking about a side project, you don't have time for the side project. You have to take it from somewhere else. And assuming you don't take it from your daily job, which is something you should never do, then it has to come from your personal side, from your personal life. So think about realistically how much time of your personal life you're willing to sacrifice for this side project. Now, once you have that kind of mindset of realistic expectation of how much time you want to take off your personal life, then the best way that you can do it is to properly manage that time, to keep track of the time, right? If you say, I'm going to spend an hour every day working on this, and then you sit down, getting yours, in the zone to start coding, and then suddenly 3 hours went by, that's not healthy either. You probably were meant to be doing something else for those 2 extra hours. Maybe not today, but if you don't keep track of this, if you don't force yourself to stop when you're meant to stop, then you're eventually going to end up burned out anyway, because you're eating extra time from that personal life that you didn't mean to eat out. So again, set realistic expectations and then keep track of them. Proper time management, essentially. Just like you do it for your job, for a project. There's someone else tracking time, making sure that everyone's working the amount of time that they're meant to be working. And you should be doing that for yourself as well. Just keep a timer. It doesn't have to be very complex. You don't need a time management system or anything. Just put a timer on your phone, and when the time's up, force yourself to stop and do something else. And that leads me to the third point essentially, which is take breaks, especially when you weren't getting started, and we're very passionate about the side project that we're working on. Thinking about breaking and thinking about not working on it might feel like counterproductive, might feel like you're never going to get it done. You're never going to finish it if you keep taking breaks. But again, we're trying to avoid burnout. We have to think about this not as a race, getting there as fast as possible, but as a marathon. Getting there is the important part, right? Mind you, for whatever reason, if your side project has a deadline, a specific delivery date for it, then definitely you have to take that date into account when you're setting expectations, when you're doing time management, but also when you're taking breaks. Taking breaks is crucial for you to disconnect, and I'm gonna keep saying it because as people as that we're not machines. Even though we're dealing with code every day, we might be working on a technical side project as well. Taking breaks is what our brain needs to disconnect, to stop thinking about this and obsessing about one specific task and think about something else. Again, if you have a personal life, if you have family, if you have other social obligations, if you will, you need to keep being a person while working on this side project at the same time. So take breaks, force yourself to stop when the timer hits, and then take breaks. And if you're going at it for long periods of time, maybe just skip a week or skip a couple of days. Get refreshed. You'll be back working at it with more energy because you got to rest. Your brain got to rest. Even, if you're doing something creative, then probably you will come back to it with newer ideas, with, a different approach even that might be better. Who knows? The point is just take breaks. The same reason why we take breaks from our job, we go into vacation, the side projects also need you to take breaks. Maybe you don't have to take a full month off of your side project, but maybe you do. Just this is also something that is very personal. You have to realize how long you've been working at it non-stop, how long you're still gonna be working on it non-stop, and just take the necessary amount of breaks in the middle. Now, this also leads me to the next one, which is taking care of yourself, right? Taking breaks is definitely one way to do it, but there are many different aspects of what it means to take care of yourself in this context. We're going back to the same concept of when you set the initial goals for the amount of work you're going to be putting on daily, you're again eating time for your personal life. Your personal life might be your family, your friends, yourself, hobbies, sports, eating, cooking, taking showers, everything that you do in your daily basis. If you start taking time from those activities, you might not just be affecting your social life. Maybe you're still making sure that you have time for your friends, for your family, for everyone else, but you're sacrificing time for yourself. Maybe you stop going to a gym or exercising at home, or maybe you stop eating healthy because it takes you longer to cook, and you just start eating like fast food or unhealthy, and you put that on top of you no longer moving as much because you're spending more time in front of the computer, and now suddenly your health is being affected by the side project without you even realizing. Months and probably years happen, and you keep doing this and accumulating bad habits on top of bad habits, and then suddenly the healthy body that you had is no longer there. I mean, this is something that you can avoid as part of taking breaks, as part of taking care of yourself. Always think about what you're planning on, how much time you're going to spend on the side project. I keep going back to that point. Has to be well thought out. You have to consider everything that you're sacrificing for the side project. If maybe the side project is going to take you a month, so you say, fine, for a month, I'm going to stop going to the gym. I'll continue afterward. That's fine. If that's okay for you, absolutely. But just make sure that you're aware of this right? And it doesn't come as a surprise when you suddenly stop feeling less energetic or, like weaker because you haven't been exercising as much. It's all about balance, as I said at the start of this episode, but you have to be aware of that balance. You have to be aware of the sacrifice that the side project involves in your personal lives. Otherwise, the burnout comes because you didn't see the side effects of that sacrifice. If you're not properly thinking about the sacrifice that you're making, then you're not thinking about the consequences of the sacrifice. And those consequences are the ones that are going to eventually create that burnout for you. And in the end, the last piece of advice that I would like to bring here is to don't isolate yourself. Again, I'm assuming here you have some sort of social circle, either family, either friends, something that allows you to interact with other people. Be open about the side project. Be open about what you're doing to those people. And within reason, let them have an opinion on it. Let them care for you and let you know that, if they see you, that you're suddenly having trouble or that you're suddenly don't look as you looked before. If they see the signs of burnout from the outside before you do, listening to them might also be a healthy thing to do. So essentially, let others give you some personal support when it comes to trying to stay healthy and even helping you with the side project if they can, right? I mean, just because it's your side project doesn't mean that you have to do it all by yourself without the help of anyone. Maybe your close friends, maybe your spouse, maybe your kids, I don't know. They can help in some regards. And that also makes it more fulfilling, if you will. So definitely don't isolate yourself just because of the side project, and don't try to do everything on your own if someone else can help you. And that's it. The episode is relatively short today. I just wanted to make sure that you had that understanding that side projects are not a bad thing, or they're not also mandatory thing for developers. As developers, we don't have to have a side project, especially not for professional reasons. That's absolutely not mandatory. However, if you do want to have a side project for whatever reason, just remember that if you do it right, you can keep working at it for years without any issues. But if you jump into it without considering the effects it will have in your personal life, you might end up burning out and without even noticing, right? So remember, to avoid burning out, especially burning out quickly, set realistic goals for the project itself and for the effort that you're going to put on it on a daily basis. Once you set that expectation, fully understand the implications of that sacrifice. Fully understand that those goals mean you're sacrificing personal time from some sort of activity that you were already doing to develop this side project. And that sacrifice will have some sort of a consequence. It can be minor, it can be big. Just be aware of the consequence so that you see it coming and it doesn't bite you in the ass without you even noticing. Once you have set up these expectations and once you understand the consequences of it, then stick to your schedule. Do proper time management and set up the timer and make sure that when the timer hits and when the time is up, you just stop. Take breaks. Allow yourself to take breaks. Allow yourself to take time off from your side project. And if you feel like you're no longer motivated, just take a week off, 2 weeks off. Just give yourself time to replenish that excitement that you had for the side project to a point where you actually feel motivated to do it again. And prioritize self-care. Prioritize yourself before the side project. And make sure that the sacrifices that you're doing to gain that extra time to develop the project don't eat up at your personal health, right? And in the end, also remember you have a social circle. Let them in. don't isolate yourself from others just because you want to work on the side project. And that's it. As usual, I hope you got some value out of the episode. If you're working on side projects, hopefully this helps you avoid burnout. I would love to know what you experienced in the past. If you actually burn out from side projects, leave a comment below, share your experience, tell us what you did to avoid the next burnout. And until then, see you in the next one. Bye. And that was it for this episode of the Scripting Them podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Remember that you can find me online on Twitter at TheDeepMan123. And you can also find the podcast YouTube channel just searching for the Scripting Them on YouTube. Thank you again, and catch you on the next one.